Welcome, everyone. Dr. Thor Templar here, and get ready for Gnosis. Well, this is the first Radionic Science podcast, one of many to come. I hope to do a podcast at least once a week, maybe even more. And I will be discussing many different issues, and these podcasts will also include actual looks at radionic technology, past, present, and even future. I have been researching this area now for close to 40 years and have worked with and worked with just about every radionic instrument out there that is available from the last 100 years, back to original Abrams units to most of the units today. Just about everything. And we're going to talk about all this. We're going to go into this fascinating science that needs to go to the next level. Now, I'm authority on this. I have written I think it's over 35 books now, 5 courses. I've been interviewed on the Art Bell Show, BBC, CNN. I have written many articles on radionics and even a little course in the past, and I will be writing a lot more and coming up with some definitive books. But I'm also going to be putting out, and I do have a kind of a primitive base course right now that is offered on our website. I will be coming out with a lot more information, and we have many radionic products, from t-shirts to cups to boxes, all the things to use this energy in your life to empower it. All of these things have been overlooked, and really the horrible technology that we have out there today called radionics needs to be brought up to the next level. People are in no way understanding this process. And actually, it's decayed down to basically nothing more than a psychic functioning, which is not what radionic science is all about. And let's fully understand that radionics is a science. It's based on energy physics, which it is all about. You use informational energetic fields in radionics to actually start changing physical matter. And this has been substantiated pretty much for 100 years now from people using these technologies in many areas and being very successful with it. Of course, it has brushed up against the large industrial pharmaceutical companies who have suppressed it like every other thing out there, including so many other radionic type technologies, which I'll talk about, and they're really not. And radionics can be defined very specifically. But we'll be going into all the electrical devices as well, Rife machines, Bob Beck's frequency things. So there's frequencies, there's which are Hertzian energies or even ELF energies, ultra low frequencies. Now these are actually a type of, or kind of fall into electric more technologies, because they are very detectable. Now, you can detect radionic science energy informational fields, but it's very difficult because the money hasn't been put into that. We don't have traditional meters. So that means a very skilled operator has to detect these energies, tune them in, etc. This is what's been holding back radionics, but for obvious reasons. If you could flip a switch on a machine and that it just worked and materialized whatever it wanted for you, or would assist in, because it doesn't really treat the physical body, but let's say these informational energetic fields started to heal people, well, you're in big trouble, aren't you? And of course, that's what's happened in the past, and people have been attacked for it. So this is one of the major problems, and we're going to get into all this. And this should be an exciting podcast informing people of what's going on in this interesting industry. And the problem is there's a lot of people that have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And, it's really sad that certain organizations who have been around for a long time, the Psychotronic Association, which does everything but talk about radionics and doesn't seem to be interested in people who are professionals, has never done anything for the industry whatsoever. Even their past president, they have a new one, Beverly Resnick, I believe, who seems to be an intelligent woman, but I don't know if she's ever going to be talking about what the machine does. How do we amplify this? What do we do about the hardware? They talk about everything but. We have the Radionic Association in England, who was started by De La Warr in his laboratories, who produced everything from a camera to many other technologies. Yet there is no museum there. There is no serious library of information. There's really nothing there. You have to go there for 3 years and physically attend their college to get certified. And it is legal in England, kinda. People I talk to are afraid to do anything. You can't advertise, you need to work with a doctor, and they are hunting radionic practitioners and harassing them. So has been told me. So, but just the fact that they don't have a correspondent program, they haven't set up any way to help people, and of course, you can call them and get practitioners to work for you on your conditions, which is interesting and something that I will try in the future to see how effective they are. They don't hire anybody to manufacture their machines. They don't have machines that they recommend. They're even getting into computerized machines, which I think is online software machines, which is totally unproven. And they just don't seem to have their act together, and they're doing their little school there. I'm assuming the people running that organization are quite elderly now, and there isn't really much going on. They are afraid to do everything apparently and have really done nothing. They do put out a newsletter, but there really isn't any books they're publishing. They're not helping people get the information out there. So unless I'm wrong and I have never joined them or got involved with them, I have gotten a CD of all their past newsletters, which again talk about everything. There's nothing about the guts of a machine. And that's what we have to know. What makes this work? If it's a psychic process, we're in a whole nother realm here that we need to talk about. So they're doing their best, but I'm assuming they have very little money. And if they are having any kind of money, they're certainly not doing well there. They even advertised renting out part of their offices to someone else, which I'm assuming is a way to make extra money. They have yearly meetings as well. We can go there in different places and are able to learn dowsing and other things. But there doesn't seem to be any emphasis on any particular machine, something they developed, something they've talked about. It's all up in the air, and they're afraid really to talk about anything. It's really sad. So what is left out there? Well, there really isn't any organizations. I had the first radionic retail store in Palm Springs, California for 3 years, which highlighted the instruments that I built and other things. You couldn't find this anywhere else in the world, but that was suppressed as well by the evil suppressing people out there that harassed me and anyone who's in alternative areas. So that was never followed, and everybody was jealous and everything else. And of course, the community itself, as you can actually call that, is very divided. People don't know anything. There are people building units out there, and then they're putting electrical machines through them. Frequency generators, Tesla coils. Well, this is not something you put through a radionic machine. These are things that maybe you can use as an amplifier, and we've put these things through many, many years ago. And they've had minor results. Now, we have to define what all this radionics is, and I will in other podcasts. What is radionics? What is it about? And they're interchangeable terms. What is psionics? What is psychotronics? What are these new orgone machines? All these things, how do we define all this? And we need to do that. Now, I have a basic course that goes into a lot of these things that I will be putting links for, and this is certainly a good start if you want to get ahead on this. You also will be seeing featured on this page previews of a lot of radionic classic machines. Now, like anything else, if you want to see the full machine and you want the more in-depth discussions on them, you'll have to go to our Patreon page and donate a few dollars to see those. Money is needed, and needed with all these organizations who never are supported enough. I mean, you try and do something good out there. Most of these people are not very business-oriented, so they end up producing what they're producing and never being a success, like the Psychotronic Association and, of course, the Radionic Association. These people never really got anything going to really make any impacts. They basically just, the association, of course, just does its training, and psychotronic people have their conventions. I'm not sure what that necessarily means in the bigger picture. There has to be a lot more done, and we need to get some really concrete information out there and start putting together a group of people who can work on what causes amplification in radionics. Now, there really has never been a breakthrough except from IGOS in the past. We were the first to use lasers, and of course, at that time, it was only red lasers, and these just didn't pick up enough information. We also use many other interesting little technologies. What came after this to some degree was these computerized units, which don't really seem to do much of anything else. They're not producing any kind of energies of any real factor. So whether you can put digital information and this has some sort of effect, well, it may have some sort of effect, but none of the results that I'm aware of from these computerized units, which are now popular. When Bruce Copeland died, the companies selling his stuff, particularly the Germans, stole his name and then made everything digital. And the same thing happened with a Mexican company. And there are several other people out there putting out what are considered digital machines. And digital what? So I just don't understand. They don't have to give out their trade secrets, but they really have to explain what are these units? What is the electronic Bruce Copeland? What is the SE5 really producing? And from what I've seen, I don't see any great pictures of anything. So, these things have to be established. If there is a success with any of these things, well, let's see the documentation on it. And certainly there are certain countries that are more open to you allowing to do this, but they're not really coming out with anything. And what are the documentations? So, and why can't some people, why can't the radionic people where it's legal in the UK produce some documented information? And for that matter, why aren't the Germans doing it with their copied Bruce Copeland units? That they come out with this electronic thing for $6,000, which is very typical of very expensive stuff. And of course, Bruce Copeland's factory, who he died, he was not married, didn't have a family, and nobody really owns his name now, apparently, and he left is now turned all his machines into these computerized units. Computerized what again? So these are all problems that we need to look into and have some discussions with. And as is typical with a lot of these, as I spoke with one recently, and I'll have an entire podcast on him in the future, who wrote 21st Century Radionics, I was not interested in talking about anything that makes his units work. He wasn't willing to share whatsoever. My impression is that he is a businessman trying to make money from it and not a person sincerely trying to help anyone. So he wouldn't even give a hint of what he's doing. His book, while is an interesting introduction, like all the other radionic books, just another introduction, speaks nothing of technology he claims he's done something with. So here we go again with the latest person kind of to come out, Nick Franks, with nothing. So, and we'll get into him as well, one of the few people I haven't covered in my particular discussions on radionic people. And we want to cover everybody because, as I said, I've been in this field now for 40 years, manufacturing things, working with very low-level stuff, which is what was talked about originally, investigating everything from Abrams and Drown, collecting a lot of these units, trying them out. What's in them? What do they do? Well, you're going to see that, or at least the Patreon members are going to see the guts of these ancient machines. They're not ancient, older timer machines that go back. I have an original tube machine from Hieronymus. I have lots of Delaware and other people, and I've collected all the modern ones as well. Well, what's in these? What's in these modern machines made by so many people? And so many of them are junk. Now, if you're a person involved in this area, we welcome your input and comments. You would like to write to me, tell me what research you have done, tell me what results you've gotten from any particular machine you're using, and we're happy to add this in. This isn't about business, this is about finding truth. I make products because I can't find anything out there that's made well. And I'm not going to spend a lot of money on something that is basically much more of a fantasy. As usual, the alternative people are more greedy than the regular people that I've seen. Just like alternative, quote, doctors and so forth charge quite a bit of money for services that don't really at least give you the kick or the bang that toxic allopathic medicine does. And usually you have to take these treatments for many years, and of course that's how they fill their pockets. And chiropractors are famous for this, and they charge you a fortune. You go home with $100 worth of supplements. That's how they do it, which do nothing. I'm not even sure they know anything about supplements either. This is pathetic and made the waters even worse. Of course, we all know the corruption within allopathic medicine, and if they need tires on their car or something, they're more than happy to cut you open and ruin your life. So this is the way they go, and there's regular medicine is so corrupt and horrible that it's really hard to say. But this isn't about medicine per se. We're not dealing with the physical. We're dealing with informational energetic fields that affect all physical matter. Everything starts at the energetic level and goes into the physical. The whole idea, if you change the aura and the energetic fields around a person, we would think that this would then reestablish the balance within that person and correct whatever they may have, whether that's mental, physical, or spiritual. Physical domain has been declared by the corruption out there to be the only that be for doctors only, and we're not interested in getting in there. We don't diagnose or talk about medical conditions directly. We're talking about using energetic informational fields, which regular medicine and the regular science considers to be fantasy and pseudoscience at its worst level. But the fact is, there's a huge amount of information that these kind of machines and what's in them, what do they do? Why did Delaware get results? What are the history there? Supposedly, he got thrown into court and was able to cure the judge's wife of her medical condition. There were major breakthroughs by apparently Albert Abrams, who made quite a bit of money on this technology prior to the drugs coming in and was building his own hospital before he died. But why did he die at a fairly young age? Why did most practitioners die at young age? What's going on here? So this is something to Tansley, the famous radionic writer, died of cancer, I believe in his late 50s. Peter Moscow who ran the Psychotronic Association, died in his 60s. Well, that's not even reaching the common 78 years life expectancy that pretty much goes around the world. So what is going on? And basic life expectancy is in your middle to late 80s. So that's the common one, taking in accidents, other things, drug doses, etc. But a person who's generally living is living into their middle to late 80s, and this goes back for hundreds of years. It's not new. So we are now having people that used to live to the middle 80s to late 80s living to the early 90s and even past that. So there does seem to be a jump up in there, and we're not really sure why, considering how worse everything is. So these are all part of this great, great mystery of subtle energy physics. This is what this is all about, and this is generally labeled radionics, but we need to understand what that is, and we need to break down what radionics is. What are all these terms we hear as well? Now, as I said, we have a course, and I'll have a link down below that you can go over to our webpage and find that particular course, and this is a great introduction. We also have a fantastic, fun, but yet effective with each one of our courses that come on CDs. The CDs are Power, Empowerment, Energy, Subtle Energy Physics Sigils. You also assemble these into a symbolic yet very powerful radionic tool. So this is a fun thing that everyone should look at, and it is effective. We're going to be coming out with lots more of those, and as I said, very detailed look at ancient machines that have never been done. We're going to offer reprints of, inexpensively, of a lot of the instruction manuals from these older machines. You may have one, but how do you use it? And we're going to look at them. What is this? What is the type? What are these machines out there? So we do need to take this into consideration and look at it the bigger picture. Nobody's really done that. I mean, what we really have now is people selling machines that invented them, built them, and tested them, saying they're great. There really is no outside testers out there. We're also willing to test any radionic machine that you have if you want us to test it for you and see what kind of results we get. We will report on these results, good or bad. And we are happy to send the machine back to you so there's nothing out of your pocket. But if you have such great machines and they work so great, well, let us test them and we will return them to you. And we will be very honest. If they're great, we will say so. If they're poor, we will say so. And you will guide us through testing of how these things are done. So the fact is that after computerization here, which has really given us no results whatsoever from what I can see, there certainly hasn't been any great claims coming after that. Nobody's come forward and said that these are so wonderful. I just don't see it. There has been the latest development in the last 5 to 10 years of using holographic images to produce physical changes in things. This seems to have done something in some incredible ways. That information passed through holographic, even through digital phone signals, have been able to change physical matter. Well, this is very interesting and fascinating at this particular point, and we're still researching it. There seems to be some results and some mixed results with other things. We don't know. We have to check it out. But this is very interesting, and this is the latest breakthrough in radionic technology, is making basically what are rates into holographic images. This is also bled into using regular Hertzian frequencies and even using sound waves. So there's all sorts of things, of course, going on here that would be quite interesting with this technology. And of course, using informational energetic fields that change physical matter or create physical matter is real science, and it is ignored. Regular physicist or physical, that's what physicist means, he's studying the physical, no matter how small it is. Nothing quantum has ever been really seen or verified. It's just a fantasy. It's theoretical quantum everything. There is nothing understood there. Yet the principles are being used to make new technologies, which are fairly primitive, but they don't get it. They don't understand the exchange of information. So it's just like they don't understand that the mind is actually created by consciousness. They think the mind creates consciousness. So it's a very backward way of looking at things, and the reason why they haven't gotten any place even in the last 100 years of modern research. So these are the type of things that we'll be looking at in this whole podcast. This is the place we do enjoy input of a positive nature from anyone. So if you have any good information, you want to pass that on, you can always email us. Email can be found on the YouTube page under About, or you can use the link below to go to our website, and you can contact us there as well. So we're looking to work with positive people. We understand that the naysayers out there, the jealous competition, the Satanists who have infected this entire area of industry to turn people off, will come on with comments that are negative and non-helpful. You will be deleted. Don't waste your time. This is a positive place for the exchange of information to build things. If you disagree, that doesn't necessarily mean negative, but let's share something that you have found and let's test what you have. Radionic science is just that. When a scientist in the goofball regular world makes a claim, he details what he did to get his results. You have to do the same thing, and what happens is that then other scientists go out there and try and repeat what you've done. If they're able to repeat it, it becomes a common, verifiable, proven science. And we want to do the same thing here. I don't want to hear your fantasies where you used this and did that and created this. It has to be verifiable and it has to be repeatable. Now, this becomes very difficult with this kind of technology. You also have to be able to, if that's not able to be done because someone doesn't have the skill, then you have to prove it. Can you affect something that we can verify if it's not something that we can repeat? So you got to understand that we're not stuck in the old science way of doing things. If something can be proved to us through any methods that you desire to do it, we will report upon it and we will work with it. You have to understand that this entire industry is ran by a lot of unskilled, uneducated, and sadly, people who are very corrupt, and it's been taken over by the, quote, negative evil forces of this planet, the Black Lodge, negative military people, and they want you to have technology that doesn't work, and that's what's out there. Junk technology built by admitted Satanists, which are the most popular out there. So this has been stated out there by people that they have been trained by Satanists, and they are selling their equipment to this day, even though they are heavily connected to Satanism and evil, nasty practices, which they have stated right out they do. So, I mean, this is fairly depressing. So the whole idea is that's what your common metaphysical radionic people are doing. And criminals are using these. And, of course, they have infiltrated all of occultism, the whole criminal market, taken it over to make a bunch of bogus products to turn people off of it and to fill their pockets. So criminals are not going to actually go out there and make money honestly. They're going to cheat you. And the head of these crime groups don't want to pay these people. Will go out and sell this stuff. It's not a charity. You got to make your own money. So these are all the things we're going to cover in this exciting and fascinating. And why wouldn't this area, which is so powerful, be under such attack from the common scientists who don't understand it and taken over by criminals who want to benefit from it? Why not? So this is being used a lot more than people think it is. All sorts of things are going down here. All sorts of things are happening in this very mysterious world. I'm not mysterious, but nothing is as it appears. You're fed lies, disinformation to keep you in a silly little fat, comfortable place, which at any time could be ripped out in front of you, but you think it's secure. So there's a lot to talk about here. There are many different aspects out there, and we have to embrace these and seek truth in this technology, which could actually change everything on this planet, clean up all of the horrible toxins by affecting all of these and reducing them and eliminating them, and of course helping people with serious problems, whether it's spiritual, mental, or physical. This could be a major step and can happen if people get behind it. Now, you have to get behind it. You have to make sure this podcast gets out there. You have to support us on Patreon. We have to have the time and energy to do this. If there's something new that's on the market, well, we should have the funds to go out and buy it and research it. Well, what does it prove? So how can we verify this as a great technology or as a bad one or maybe just a mediocre one? How do we make this technology user-friendly? These are all the things we're trying to do. How can we make this technology, once we find a good one, which we're working on right now, be reasonably priced for people? You know, advanced technology is expensive. You want to put expensive lasers and high-quality components in something? Well, they cost a lot of money. You could easily spend a few $1,000s just on quality components without even putting the labor in and any kind of profitable markup, if you call it profits, because the profits go into supporting the researchers. So I don't even consider it profit. Everybody has to have a wage to live on. Do you think that people will do anything because they do it in part-time or they do it on Saturday after work? That kind of an attitude is going to cause failure, and that's what's happened with this entire industry. This is part-time nonsense. People don't make any money from it, or if they do, they seem to be controlled by some nefarious factors out there and greatly traceable. I told people about these problems with these Satanists over 25 years ago. And yet people continue to support him and don't think it's a problem. Well, they don't think it's a problem because they are threatened as well. I mean, there's a lot of dirt here, people. There's a lot of things that you are afraid to get involved with and will not support positive people. It's about time that this actually happens. And we get this information out there. But it's going to take an effort. And it doesn't take hundreds of thousands of people. It doesn't even take tens of thousands of people. It takes a few thousand dedicated people on a planet that has 8 billion on it to push something like this ahead so there is a sustainable organization that has the money to have research facilities and to do the research necessary. It doesn't take a fortune, but it does take money, and it does take full-time, dedicated people that can start training now. Now, we're in the process of opening up an institute in Ireland, and that should service the entire world. This is going to take assistance and money as well. Again, not a lot of money, but it's enough money so that people can be supported there as full-time researchers, and there's a full-time place to do our work at. All of this is peanuts in the bigger world out there. But alternative people have never come out and supported these kind of alternatives. There's not a single alternative organization that I know of that's ever done well. Look at the Psychotronic Association, who was closed for many years after the death of Peter Moscow, I believe, who died again young. Where is his technology? He was a healer on top of it. What is that all about? Look at the Radionic Association in England. It's pretty poor for being around for they were started in the late 40s. So you're talking about 50, 60, 70 years? 70 years they've been around, and they have nothing to show for it. I mean, who would even want to go there? You think they would have a little museum and they would have special machines? From what I know, there's none of that there, and they don't speak of it. Whether they have a good training college, probably so. I would hope so after 70 years. But it doesn't really facilitate training people well. You have to go there like it's a college, and you can't get anything by mail. Well, that's pretty sad. Now, you may not certify a person by mail, but why not have a mail order course? Then you're required to come there and get certified in another way. Now, I can see that if you want to play that particular game there, and that's probably part of the legality of it, but they're not serving anybody. It doesn't seem like they've done anything. Who's left? Well, there's nobody left. We moved into this area many years ago, then moved back out of it. Now we're getting back into it because this is hot. This is what works. This is what is good for everybody, and they don't have to do the kind of empowerment that is required in so many other systems. The machine does do a lot of the work, but you still have to be an empowered person, and we'll get into that as well. So if you're not psychically strong, if you don't have good concentration abilities, the machines don't work. So we have to get involved in what is that all about. What about old technologies? What about new technologies? How do we combine all these things? You know, in the last 50 years, there's been a lot of new kind of energetic things made. Are they any good? Are tachyons any good? Do they work with radionics? How about lasers? How about quasi-orgone and other things? Are they safe? Is this something that works? So we just don't know. A lot of people are putting in 8 hertz generator, which is what these Qi things are. They're not Qi, they're 8 hertz generators. That's all they are. Do they produce results? Well, we don't know. People have to test these things. So we are seeking truth. We are seeking technology that works, and we're happy to work with those that have it. But, you know, nobody's overly open. There's problems, people that come up with new things. There's lots of charlatans out there and plain crazy people who claim that they're gods. There's other ones that are all the Satanists. I mean, we're in a big muck and mire here when it comes to anything alternative. There are a lot of people, doctors can use radionics in many states. New York State is one of them. You could actually, as a doctor, do that. But the bottom line is that other doctors would shun you and probably put you out of business. So these are the type of things that happen to people that got it. We have to look into all this stuff. What is the value of it on what plane? Now, I've been mostly using radionics for the last 30, 40 years, metaphysically, to empower and protect myself, to generate success energies. I really never got into the subtle energy manifestation to change what are considered bioenergy disruptions, oftentimes called diseases. But it's not the same thing. It's very different, and as I said, has no credibility from the medical establishment, and we shouldn't look at it that way because we then get into trouble thinking that you're doing some medical practices. We're not. Plain and simple, these are energy balancing. So does a priest who blesses you to get rid of the illness, is he practicing as a doctor? No, he's dealing from a spiritual level. So these are all the exciting aspects that this podcast will create, and you will see some amazing technologies here. We also expect to do experiments where you'll see the beginning and after results. So these are the types of things that we have to look at, and we will be 100% honest. I think we're the only organization that is. Other people are controlled. They have a hidden agenda. Some of them are quite scary and evil. There are other ones that are just delusional, thinking that their stuff works so they can fill their pockets. Yet, is there any proof of it? So the whole idea is that we have to get out there and start communicating with each other for those who are serious out there, and you can tell me what you have done, designed, or what machines you have used that you've gotten results from. And these can't be, again, you can't be the shill for companies out there either, because we'll know that. We'll know what you're doing, and if you're making false claims so that some machine gets it, or you think that orgonite is something more than a toxic energy, well, you don't get it. It's as simple as that. So you're not getting it, and these people don't understand who's behind these organizations and what they're doing. All of these people seem to have these problems. So, and they're taking the lowest kind of scum out there possible is the alternative radionic market. And we've talked about some of these people, or at least most of them, I have done lectures on. So make sure you check out these people and find out who they are, whether they're classic people like Bruce Copen or the more modern deranged people like Charles Casamata. So the whole idea is, who are these people? What are they up to and what are they doing? I'm afraid that the information on most of these people ain't very good. But what have they done? What have they produced? I've had Copen units and have many of them, and I've went into the basics of him before. And there are many other ones that are out there. And we want to look in these machines and what are they doing? What have they said makes them work? And what does it all get down to? What did Abrams do? So, and we're getting into all this, and the story of Abrams, I've just read some new information on him, is, of course, very distorted. But what is this? Why are radionic practitioners dying so young? And again, people think, oh, well, they died in the 50s and 60s, and nobody lived past 60. It's not true at all. Go back and look at some movie stars, and this is a great way. Find your favorite movie star from the past. James Cagney, 86 or 7. Well, if you live to 86 or 7 now, you think you're special, don't you? Well, we're living longer now. Not true. And just go back of the different movie stars, and I spent a whole day doing this, and those that didn't die young because of cancer, like Humphrey Bogart, because he was a terrible smoker, have all lived into their late 80s. So, and it's keeps going on and on and on, and people that are older today, and this is just a way to recognize somebody that you know of, they're all living into their late 80s now. So what is that all about? Robert Wagner, he's 89 now. And it goes on and on and on. And a lot of these people who we've heard have been sick and have Alzheimer's and everything else have still lived into it. Patrick McNee from the Avengers, 92. And we know how great the Brits generally eat with, I don't know, is it the tea? So here we go on and on again of people living quite long. And for that matter, the royal family is up in their 90s now. So here we go again. Is it homeopathy? I mean, the Brits aren't known for the great diets of beef and lots of booze. Is that the key? Drink a lot? So, I don't know. We need to find the answers to all of these things. And we need to know what technologies are out there. We're going into times of super illnesses and other problems. We need to learn how to strengthen our auric energy fields to prevent things from taking hold in us or canceling those energies out. How do we do all this? How do we use these things to improve the prosperity energies around us? Why are people successful? Well, I've looked into these people, and they're all stupid people. Really stupid. You think Bill Gates is a genius? He didn't graduate from, college, by the way. He dropped out in the first year. So it's not like he got this higher education that helped him. He's basically a high school graduate. Steve Jobs, I think he graduated high school, but he didn't even, he went and ate mushrooms. We go on and on of these people of how great that is. Branson, who is virtually retarded because he's so dyslexic, yet he's a billionaire. Why? Well, they have informational energetic fields around them that create success. That success creates good people coming to them because he has lots of money to pay people, so you can go get the best. I remember this happening with the famous brand of teas called Celestial Teas in the United States. Well, this was started by a little hippie guy. He went out there and picked this stuff in the wild. But he was very smart. When his company got big, he went out, and a lot of people will do, he went out and hired the ex-vice president of Pepsi, who had all the connections and everything else. So, that's right. And people like to business executives who are rich like to go into small companies and make them successful. It's fun. And he made that into the tea giant it is today. So, this is what happens. So, the point is that these people have energies around them that draw in success after success while you're battling to just keep your head above water. So there's many aspects of this type of technology, and it doesn't go to energetic, informational, physical fields that then affect physical fields of the body. There are all these levels of real physical energies. They're called hate, love. All your emotions are energies. So, there are energies around you that create things. Why are you popular? Why do people like you? Why do you meet somebody and you like them? They're putting off an energy. Why do you meet somebody and dislike them? You know nothing about them. You're just picking up energies. Why do you go up to a place and say, gee, I like the vibes here. I don't like the vibes here. Let's leave. I'm getting bad energies. This happens to almost to everybody. I don't like the feeling here. Or they use terms like gut feeling. Poker players do this. They talk about their gut feelings. I don't, the famous Bronson, what was his name? Dolly Bronson or whatever it was. He stated that he didn't count cards or do any math. It's all gut feeling from him, meaning it's all intuition. And this is one of the top players in the world. That's very common with players. A lot of players like to use science, count the cards, figure out what's in the deck, what's going to come up, how many are left. Now, all these are helpful. But the bottom line is that other people are playing by gut. Is this right? Is this the right thing to do? And what you're doing is using your intuition or biophysical psychic energy to detect the energy around you. So these are all the things that these machines can also replicate. So if it's an energy, you can copy it and then project it at any target of your choosing. So these are very advanced uses, and of course anything that heals can also hurt. These are all the aspects of this technology that are being used today and will continue in the future. And those people who are involved in this will be the ones that are able to reach extremely high levels. This is the ultimate science. This is the ultimate of everything. Nothing comes close to this. You're not dependent on spirits or some sort of more occultist type energy. You are creating and tapping into the energies that create everything in the universe. And you can also tap into those other spiritual energies as well, even though they're less reliable. But what are all these things when it comes down to it? How do all these energies work? Well, nobody's really spent the time to do this. Nobody's really been active in this field, and quite frankly, the people that are out there are pretty uneducated and wacky and just mental cases in general. They're not really seeking anything but selling technology. What is their background? What is their interest? I mean, quite frankly, if you haven't contacted me previously, well, what do you know? I've been in this field for a long time. Why not? Gotten to by the evil people? Probably so, which means you're living in the sack of poo that they give you. So the whole idea is make sure you keep the geniuses and those who are onto something seriously potent suppressed and out of the way. And of course, you're more than happy to do that for the crumbs they send you. So that's the way things go in this society. That's why any great technological people who come up with special things are always been persecuted. And they're persecuted because people within their own industry don't group together and support each other. So it's the same old story. I've never heard from all these people, and they've never contacted me with anything extending friendship. People, when I have contacted them, have been cursed and unsupportive, like Nick Franks, who won't talk to you about anything except, you want to buy my stuff? So the whole idea is that this is the type of things that happen. If things are going to be changing, it means that there has to be a group of people again. But if it's not going to be these pseudo intellectual losers who don't want to perpetrate this new technology, which is the ultimate technology of using informational energetic fields, if they don't want to do this because they can't figure it out or they're too afraid of losing their money, well, good riddance to all of them. It just takes a group of people that are interested in this to get it going and for people to share their research with the machines they have used. Well, I don't see this happening quite yet, but hopefully this will. I don't have much faith in it because the people that are out there are corrupted. A lot of them are plants to make sure that this entire industry is destroyed. So they want junk on the market. They don't want you empowered. Now, everyone has to understand this. So those who don't understand this, you're not really in the loop. You're living in some fantasy like the dumbademia people do, thinking that they know something, thinking that their physics are rooted in what is known as facts of at least today, when they're living in a past false world, which is basically laughable and comic book. They are just on the same level with religion that teaches you nonsense from old books that means nothing. Comic book information that you are depending your life on or believing in. All of this needs to stop. We all need to move ahead, and now's the time to do it. So stay tuned for all the coming podcasts in radionic science, and expand your mind, and you will experience the future, real technology. And that ain't some goofy little cell phone app that does nothing. Until next time.